The quantum resonance sensors of the Luminary Explorer ship trembled with an anomalous reading that defied every protocol of known stellar cartography. Captain Zoran Tok felt the subtle vibrations ripple through her exoskeleton, a sensation that spoke of something extraordinary lurking in the vast emptiness beyond the ship's crystalline viewports. The Luminary Exploration Vessel, the Starweaver, had been charting the outer reaches of the Viridian cluster for solar cycles. Typically, such missions were exercises in methodical documentation, mapping stellar phenomena, analyzing radiation patterns, and collecting microscopic data that would fill countless research archives. But this moment was different. The sensors weren't merely detecting something. They were resonating with an almost sentient uncertainty. "Quantum stabilization protocols engage," announced the ship's primary navigation officer, his multi-segmented fingers dancing across a holographic interface that shifted and pulsed with electromagnetic wavelengths. The bridge hummed with a collective tension that transcended the typical professional detachment of luminary explorers. Zara leaned forward, her compound eyes focusing on the primary display. What initially appeared as a simple spatial anomaly began to resolve into something far more intriguing. A vessel, if one could even call it that, drifted against the starlit backdrop. Its design defied everything the luminary understood about spacecraft engineering. Most spacefaring civilizations created vessels that reflected their biological and technological evolution. The luminary themselves crafted ships that mimicked their own organic complexity. Living metal that grew and adapted, neural networks that pulsed like living tissue. Other known species followed similar patterns. The Coraxian designs resembled massive crystalline shells, while the Void Runners created ships that looked like intricate mechanical coral. But this vessel, it was different. Geometric metal panels reflected starlight with an almost defiant simplicity. Sharp angles replaced the usual curved lines of advanced spacecraft. It looked less like a product of sophisticated engineering and more like a carefully constructed weapon. No organic curves, no fluid adaptability, just raw, purposeful design that suggested function over form. Preliminary scans indicate metallic composition unlike any known stellar alloy, reported the science specialist, her voice carrying a hint of professional excitement. Thermal signatures suggest active systems, but not in any configuration we've previously encountered. It's as if the vessel is waiting. The word hung in the air, charged with unspoken implications. Zara's neural interface began collecting and processing the incoming data streams. Each fragment told a story. Sporadic energy signatures that didn't follow predictable patterns, structural integrity that seemed to defy known physical constraints, and an underlying complexity that hinted at technologies far beyond simple mechanical engineering. "Communication arrays?" she inquired, her voice steady despite the growing sense of anticipation. The communication officer adjusted several translational interfaces. No standard frequency responses, but there's something. Electromagnetic patterns that suggest intentional communication, just not through any protocol we recognize. The ship's artificial environment seemed to grow still, as if holding its collective breath. Generations of luminary exploration had taught them that first encounters were delicate moments, windows of opportunity that could close as quickly as they opened. What was this vessel? A derelict? A trap? A sentinel guarding some unknown territory? Or something entirely beyond their current understanding? The Starweaver continued its careful approach, maintaining a respectful distance that spoke of both scientific curiosity and inherent caution. Luminary exploration was not about conquest or immediate engagement, but about understanding, peeling back the layers of cosmic mystery one careful observation at a time. As they drew marginally closer, more details emerged. The vessel's exterior showed signs of extensive travel, micro-impact marks from interstellar debris, subtle radiation scoring that suggested prolonged exposure to various stellar environments. But there was something else, a deliberateness to its positioning. It wasn't abandoned. It was positioned, waiting. Zara's neural pathways began constructing potential scenarios. each more fascinating than the last. First contact scenarios were rarely this enigmatic. Most involved clear communication protocols, diplomatic overtures, or obvious signs of either welcome or warning. This was different. This was an invitation to something unknown. The communication interface of the Starweaver erupted in a cascade of multicolored holographic displays, each representing different attempts to decode the incoming signal. What should have been a moment of scientific confusion instead became something entirely unexpected. A transmission that defied every known protocol of interstellar communication. Unidentified vessel, you have entered a protected spatial corridor. State your purpose or prepare for redirection. The message was startlingly direct. No elaborate introduction, no diplomatic preamble, no recognition of the potential complexity of first contact. Just a clear, almost conversational directive that suggested something fundamental about its origin. Communication specialist Lorax, Verin's manipulative tendrils froze mid-motion. The universal translation matrices struggled, not because they couldn't comprehend the language, but because the underlying communication structure was so fundamentally different from anything in their extensive databases. Analysis, Captain Zaren Tak demanded, her compound eyes reflecting the pulsing communication interfaces. Lorax's response came with a mixture of professional excitement and genuine bewilderment. The transmission contains multiple layers of meaning. It's not just a message. It's a complex information packet. Linguistic structures suggest a species that communicates through precise information transfer rather than diplomatic elaboration. The bridge crew watched in collective fascination. Most first contact scenarios involved elaborate dance-like communication protocols, careful linguistic negotiations that could take solar cycles to establish basic understanding. This was different. This was immediate. This was almost casual. The vessel's computer began breaking down the transmission, revealing layers of complexity that defied their initial assessment. Each word wasn't just a linguistic construct. It was a carefully constructed information package. The phrase, protected spatial corridor, wasn't merely a warning. It was a precise legal and territorial definition, complete with implied jurisdictional boundaries and potential consequences. They're not just communicating, Lorax continued. They're establishing a comprehensive framework of interaction in a single transmission. Captain Tak understood the profound implications. Most spacefaring civilizations developed communication protocols that reflected their biological and social structures. The luminary themselves used complex neuro-linguistic patterns that could take months to fully interpret. The Corexian communication involved intricate color and energy modulation that required specialized translation matrices. But this was different. The human transmission carried an underlying tone that defied simple categorization. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't an invitation. It was a statement, a clear, unequivocal declaration of boundaries and expectations. Secondary analysis began revealing additional layers. The transmission contained embedded mathematical sequences, spatial coordinates, and what appeared to be adaptive communication protocols. It was as if the message was simultaneously a warning, an invitation, and a comprehensive information package about potential interaction methodologies. They're giving us an opportunity, Lorax realized, not to negotiate, but to demonstrate our understanding. The bridge fell into a profound silence. This wasn't just communication. This was a test. Zara's neural pathways began constructing potential response scenarios. Traditional luminary protocols would involve an elaborate introduction, a comprehensive explanation of their mission, cultural background, and diplomatic intentions. But something told her that approach would be entirely inappropriate here. "Prepare a response," she commanded. "Precision is key." The communication team worked with remarkable speed. They constructed a message that was simultaneously an acknowledgement, an explanation, and a demonstration of their own capabilities. Every word was chosen with mathematical precision. Every potential interpretation was considered. The response would need to communicate their peaceful intentions, their scientific mission, and their respect for the established spatial boundaries. all within a framework that suggested they understood the underlying communication protocol. As the response was prepared, the mysterious vessel remained position, its geometric hull reflecting starlight with an almost contemplative stillness. It wasn't actively threatening. It wasn't posturing. It was simply waiting. This was more than a first contact scenario. This was a profound moment of potential understanding. The universe, in all its vast complexity, had just become significantly more interesting. The moment of transition defied every fundamental principle of spatial dynamics that the luminary understood. One instant, the human vessel occupied a static position against the starlit backdrop. The next, it existed simultaneously in multiple potential coordinates, a quantum impossibility that sent shockwaves through the Starweaver's advanced sensor arrays. "Spatial integrity compromised," shouted Krell, the primary navigation officer, his multiple appendages dancing across holographic interfaces that flickered and warped with impossible readings. The ship's quantum stabilization systems struggled to process what they were witnessing. What the luminary crew observed was nothing short of technological sorcery. The human vessel didn't simply move. It seemed to fold space around itself, creating a navigation pattern that was less about physical movement and more about redefining the very concept of spatial positioning. Traditional faster-than-light travel involved predictable quantum tunneling, a method where vessels created controlled warp fields to traverse interstellar distances. Ships moved through space in comprehensible vectors, with mathematically precise calculations that allowed for safe navigation. The human vessel shattered those understanding completely. Its movement suggested something beyond advanced technology. This was manipulation of spatial mechanics that bordered on the theoretical, concepts that existed only in the most speculative research papers of the most advanced luminary theoretical physicists. Instantaneous repositioning, simultaneous spatial occupation, navigational algorithms that seemed to predict and counter potential defensive responses before they could even be conceived. Captain Zora and Tak watched in stunned fascination as the vessel executed what could only be described as a technological ballet. Each movement was a complex mathematical equation made manifest. The ship didn't travel through space so much as it negotiated with the fundamental laws of physics, bending them with an almost casual elegance. The Starweaver's defensive systems, pinnacle of luminary technological achievement, began to activate. Quantum shield generators hummed to life, creating multilayered energy fields designed to protect against any potential threat. Adaptive camouflage systems engage, allowing the ship to modulate its electromagnetic signature and thermal emissions. None of it mattered. Before the luminary could fully comprehend what was happening, the human vessel had already calculated and countered every potential defensive maneuver. It wasn't just prediction. It was a complete understanding of potential action and reaction, rendered with such precision that it seemed almost prescient. "Computational analysis is impossible," Krell muttered, his translation implants struggling to process the incoming data streams. "The navigational algorithms, they're not just advanced. They're adaptive, learning, responding to potential scenarios faster than our systems can even register the initial threat." The ship's artificial intelligence, a marvel of luminary engineering, began to overheat from the sheer computational complexity of tracking the human vessel's movements. Quantum processors that could perform quintillions of calculations per second were being pushed beyond their designed limitations. What made the encounter truly remarkable was the underlying feeling that this wasn't an aggressive action. The human vessel moved with the precision of a scientific instrument, not a weapon of war. Each repositioning seemed calculated to demonstrate capability rather than to inflict damage. Zara understood then that they were witnessing something profound. This wasn't just technological superiority. This was a fundamental difference in how technology could be conceived and implemented. The luminary had always viewed technology as an extension of biological evolution. Their ships were living systems, adaptive organisms that grew and changed. But this human vessel suggested a different paradigm. Technology as a pure expression of mathematical and computational potential. Computational patterns emerged that suggested the vessel was simultaneously analyzing multiple potential interaction scenarios. It wasn't just navigating. It was learning, studying, evaluating the luminary ship with a level of detailed observation that felt almost sentient. They're not just moving, Zara realized aloud. They're communicating through movement. Each spatial repositioning was a statement. Each quantum shift a complex sentence in a language of pure mathematics and technological potential. The human vessel was demonstrating its capabilities not through aggression, but through an almost artistic display of technological mastery. The universe, in that moment, felt significantly larger and more complex than anyone aboard the Starweaver had previously imagined. The defensive systems of the Starweaver represented the pinnacle of luminary technological achievement, a culmination of thousands of solar cycles of scientific advancement. Adaptive quantum shields that could reconfigure molecular structures in microseconds. Predictive energy dispersal matrices designed to neutralize potential threats before they could fully manifest. Computational systems that could process multiple potential scenarios simultaneously. None of it mattered. As the human vessel's weapon systems activated, the Luminary crew witnessed something that fundamentally challenged their understanding of technological engagement. It wasn't just precision. It wasn't merely advanced targeting. This was technological problem-solving elevated to an art form. Each defensive mechanism the Starweaver attempted was not just countered, it was systematically deconstructed and neutralized with a level of computational complexity that bordered on the philosophical. The human weapons didn't simply destroy. They analyzed. They understood. They solved. "Impossible," whispered Krell, the navigation officer, his multiple sensory tendrils trembling with a mixture of terror and professional fascination. The ship's primary defensive grid, a complex network of quantum energy fields that could adapt and reconfigure faster than most species could comprehend, was being dismantled with surgical precision. The weapon systems of the human vessel operated on a level that suggested something beyond traditional technological warfare. Each energy pulse was a carefully constructed mathematical equation. Every targeting sequence was simultaneously an offensive action and a comprehensive systems analysis. Captain Zora and Tak watched as her ship's most advanced protective systems were rendered obsolete. The human vessel wasn't just overcoming their defenses. It was learning from them. Each defensive configuration was instantly analyzed, understood, and neutralized before it could fully engage. What became increasingly clear was that this wasn't simply about technological superiority. This was a fundamentally different approach to problem-solving, where the Luminary viewed technological engagement as a form of biological adaptation. The human vessel presented technology as a pure expression of computational potential. The weapon systems didn't just target, they communicated. Each energy pulse carried embedded informational signatures that suggested multiple layers of analysis. It was as if the weapons themselves were collecting data, understanding the Luminary ship's systems with each interaction. Not to destroy, but to comprehend. "They're studying us," Lorax, the communication specialist, realized aloud. The observation sent a profound wave of understanding through the bridge crew. This was more than an encounter. This was a comprehensive systems analysis conducted through the medium of technological interaction. The human vessel's computational approach defied everything the Luminary understood about technological engagement. Traditional spacefaring civilizations viewed weapon systems as tools of destruction or deterrence. But this was something else entirely. Each defensive system of the Starweaver was approached not as a barrier to be overcome, but as a complex problem to be solved. The human vessel's systems didn't just neutralize. They understood. They learned. They adapted with a speed that suggested something beyond traditional artificial intelligence. Zara recognized the profound implications. This wasn't just technological superiority. This was a fundamental difference in cognitive approach. The humans viewed technological challenges as pure computational problems, complex equations to be solved with mathematical precision and intellectual curiosity. The bridge fell into a stunned silence as more details emerged. The weapon systems weren't generating random energy discharges. Each pulse carried complex informational signatures, mathematical sequences, adaptive learning protocols that suggested the weapons themselves were collecting and processing data with each interaction. It was as if the entire vessel was one massive interconnected computational system, not just a ship, not just a weapon, but a learning entity that approached every interaction as an opportunity for understanding. The Luminary had encountered countless spacefaring civilizations. Some were more technologically advanced. Some were more militarily aggressive. But none had presented technology as a pure expression of intellectual potential quite like this. As the final defensive systems of the Starweaver began to destabilize, something remarkable happened. The human vessel didn't move to destroy. It didn't press its overwhelming advantage. It waited. The universe, in that moment, felt significantly more complex and mysterious than anyone aboard the Starweaver had ever imagined. The communication intercepts began as a subtle cascade of data that defied every known linguistic and psychological analysis protocol. What the Luminary received was not a simple transmission, but a complex tapestry of communication that challenged fundamental understanding of interspecies interaction. Communication specialist Lorax, Verin's sensory tendrils vibrated with an intensity that suggested both professional excitement and deep psychological discomfort. The human communication channels revealed a depth of complexity that was almost organic in its unpredictability. "It's not just language," Lorax muttered, reviewing the intercepted transmissions. "It's a complete psychological ecosystem." The bridge crew listened intently as the translation matrices struggled to capture the nuanced layers of human communication. Each transmission carried multiple levels of meaning. Professional reports intermixed with what seemed to be personal observations, technical analyses blended with subtle attempts at humor, serious strategic discussions punctuated by seemingly irrelevant personal anecdotes. One particularly revealing intercept caught everyone's attention. "System breach in Quadrant 3, a voice reported with clinical precision. Then, almost immediately after, "Jenkins owes me 20 credits if we resolve this without full system reset." The linguistic complexity was staggering. A serious technical report seamlessly integrated with a personal wager, suggesting a communication style that was simultaneously professional and deeply personal. It was as if the humans viewed technological challenges as both a serious endeavor and an opportunity for interpersonal interaction. Captain Zara Tok found herself fascinated. Most spacefaring civilizations maintained strict communication protocols. The Luminary themselves had elaborate linguistic structures that separated professional and personal communication into distinct channels. The humans seemed to blend these boundaries with an almost casual sophistication. Further interceptions revealed even more profound insights. The crew discussed their current situation not as a potential combat scenario, but as a complex problem-solving exercise. Technical challenges were approached with a mixture of professional expertise and what could only be described as intellectual playfulness. Probability of full system recovery. One voice asked. 87.6%. Another responded. A third voice chimed in. Bet you can't make it 90. It was a conversation that was simultaneously a technical assessment, a professional challenge, and a social interaction. The humans seemed to transform every interaction into a multilayer communication event. Psychological analysis matrices began to break down. This wasn't just communication. This was a comprehensive approach to interaction that defied traditional understanding. The humans weren't just exchanging information. They were building complex social and professional relationships through their communication. The most profound revelation came from the way they discussed the Luminary vessel. There was no fear, no overwhelming aggressive intent. Instead, there was a clinical curiosity combined with a subtle undercurrent of what could only be described as professional respect. Interesting design, one transmission noted. Quantum interfacing looks complex. Wonder how they managed molecular stabilization in those shield generators. It was an observation that was simultaneously an assessment of technological capability and an expression of genuine intellectual curiosity. The humans didn't view the Starweaver as a potential threat or an enemy vessel. They viewed it as a fascinating technological puzzle. Lorax realized something profound. The humans were communicating on multiple levels simultaneously: technical information, personal interactions, strategic assessments, social bonding. Each transmission was a complex ecosystem of meaning that defied simple categorization. The translation matrices continued to struggle. Human communication wasn't just about exchanging information. It was about building relationships, solving problems, and maintaining social connections, all simultaneously. One particularly revealing transmission captured the essence of their approach. Potential first contact scenario. Recommendations: keep it professional. Maybe crack a joke if the tension gets high. Noted: standard first contact protocols with a side of human charm. The bridge of the Starweaver fell into a stunned silence. This was more than communication. This was a comprehensive approach to interaction that suggested a species with a fundamentally different understanding of social and professional engagement. The universe, in that moment, felt significantly more complex and fascinating than anyone aboard the Starweaver had ever imagined. The moment the Starweaver's primary systems began to destabilize, something extraordinary happened. Instead of pressing their overwhelming technological advantage, the human vessel initiated a series of actions that defied every known protocol of interstellar engagement. System repair sequences began with a precision that suggested something far more complex than simple mercy or technological altruism. Each repair was a carefully calculated intervention, a demonstration of capabilities that went beyond mere technical proficiency. "Quantum stabilization matrices realigning," announced Krell, the navigation officer, his multiple sensory tendrils trembling with a mixture of confusion and professional fascination. The human vessel wasn't just offering assistance, it was conducting a comprehensive systems analysis that simultaneously repaired and studied the luminary ship. Captain Zora and Tak watched in profound silence as critical systems that moments ago were on the brink of complete failure began to restore themselves. It wasn't a complete restoration. That would have been too simple, too straightforward. Instead, the humans were providing targeted interventions that allowed the Starweaver to maintain its fundamental operational integrity. The repair process revealed layers of complexity that challenged everything the luminary understood about technological assistance. Each repaired system carried subtle modifications, not replacements, but optimizations. Quantum shielding algorithms were subtly recalibrated. Energy distribution networks were refined with mathematical precision. It was as if the humans were saying, "We can destroy you completely. Instead, we choose to help you understand." Communication channels began to populate with precise, clinical information. Repair sequences were accompanied by detailed explanations, not as a gesture of superiority, but as a comprehensive knowledge transfer. Technical specifications, adaptive modification protocols, potential system improvements. Your quantum stabilization matrix shows inherent structural limitations in its current configuration. One transmission noted. Recommended modifications attached. Implementation is optional. The approach was simultaneously clinical and respectful. No demands, no threats, just pure information transfer. Lorax Furin, the communication specialist, realized something profound. This wasn't just technological assistance. This was a complex form of communication, a demonstration of capability that went beyond traditional concepts of warfare or diplomacy. The repair sequences told a story far more complex than simple mercy. They were a comprehensive demonstration of technological and intellectual potential. The humans weren't just fixing a damaged vessel. They were offering a glimpse into their own technological understanding. Each restored system carried subtle signatures of human technological approach. Adaptive algorithms that could predict and prevent potential future failures. Optimization protocols that suggested a holistic understanding of technological systems. Repair methods that viewed the ship not as a collection of components, but as an interconnected living system. "They're teaching us," Captain Talk whispered, the realization spreading through the bridge like a quantum ripple. The intervention wasn't about demonstrating superiority. It was about sharing knowledge, about presenting an alternative approach to technological understanding. Subtle modifications began to emerge: energy efficiency improvements, quantum entanglement stabilization enhancements, predictive maintenance algorithms that could extend the ship's operational capabilities by solar cycles. Repair sequence completion estimated at 72%, Krell reported. But system capabilities increased by approximately 38% beyond original specifications. It was a profound demonstration of technological philosophy, where most spacefaring civilizations would view a disabled vessel as a potential threat or an opportunity for conquest. The humans saw a chance for knowledge transfer, a potential moment of mutual understanding. The most remarkable aspect was the complete absence of any demand for compensation or recognition. The repairs, the technical insights, the system optimizations, they were offered without expectation of return. As the final repair sequences completed, a simple transmission arrived. System optimization complete. Recommend comprehensive diagnostic review. Additional support available if required. No fanfare, no demands, just a clinical professional offer of continued assistance. The bridge of the Starweaver fell into a stunned silence. This was more than technological intervention. This was a fundamental reimagining of interstellar interaction. The universe, in that moment, felt significantly more complex and fascinating than anyone aboard the Starweaver had ever imagined. The final transmission from the human vessel arrived not as a threat, not as a diplomatic overture, but as a comprehensive statement of universal understanding that would forever change the luminary's perception of interstellar interactions. Communication specialist Lorax, Vern's sensory apparatus trembled as the message began to unfold. It wasn't just a communication. It was a meticulously constructed philosophical and strategic declaration that defied every known protocol of first contact. Preliminary communication established. The transmission began. Intervention complete. Spatial boundary protocols activated. Each word carried multiple layers of meaning. The language was clinical, precise, yet underneath lay a profound complexity that suggested something far beyond simple communication. It was a message that simultaneously defined boundaries, offered understanding, and presented a comprehensive framework for future interactions. The universal translation matrices struggled to capture the full depth of the transmission. What emerged was more than a simple message. It was a comprehensive philosophy of interstellar engagement. Our presence in this spatial corridor represents neither aggression nor exploration in the traditional sense. The transmission continued. We establish clear parameters of interaction based on mutual respect, technological understanding, and the fundamental principles of non-destructive engagement. Captain Zoran Tak felt a profound shift in the bridge's atmospheric tension. This wasn't diplomatic language. This was a carefully constructed philosophical framework that redefined the very concept of first contact. The message broke down into multiple comprehensive sections. 1. Territorial acknowledgement. The humans detailed their understanding of spatial boundaries with a mathematical precision that was breathtaking. They didn't just define their territory. They presented a complex understanding of spatial dynamics that suggested a view of the universe far more nuanced than simple ownership. 2. Technological interaction protocols. A detailed explanation of their approach to technological engagement followed. It wasn't a set of rules, but a philosophical framework that viewed technology as a form of communication. Each technological interaction was presented as an opportunity for mutual understanding, not conquest or domination. 3. Principles of non-destructive engagement. The most profound section outlined their core interaction philosophy. The humans presented a comprehensive approach that prioritized mutual understanding over conflict, knowledge transfer over territorial expansion, and collaborative problem-solving over competitive engagement. We do not seek conflict, the transmission stated, but we are prepared to defend our fundamental principles with absolute clarity. The language was simultaneously a warning and an invitation, a demonstration of capability balanced with a genuine offer of peaceful interaction. Lorax realized something profound. This wasn't just a message. It was a comprehensive worldview compressed into a single transmission. The humans were offering not just a diplomatic greeting, but a complete philosophical framework for interstellar interaction. The most remarkable aspect was the complete absence of any traditional diplomatic posturing. No demands for submission, no threats of retaliation, just a clear, clinical explanation of their approach to universal interaction. Our capabilities are not a measure of superiority, the transmission continued, but a reflection of our approach to universal challenges. We invite understanding. We prepare for potential conflict. We prioritize knowledge. Each word was carefully constructed. Each phrase carried multiple layers of meaning. It was a communication that viewed language itself as a form of technological and philosophical problem-solving. The bridge crew listened in stunned silence as the transmission continued to unfold. This was more than first contact. This was a comprehensive reimagining of interstellar interaction. The final section of the transmission was perhaps the most profound. This interaction serves as a mutual understanding. We seek peaceful exploration, but we are prepared to protect our fundamental principles with absolute clarity. Future interactions will be evaluated based on mutual respect, technological cooperation, and the fundamental principles of non-destructive engagement. It was a message that was simultaneously a warning, an invitation, and a philosophical declaration. The universe, in that moment, felt significantly more complex and fascinating than anyone aboard the Starweaver had ever imagined. As the transmission concluded, a single line remained. Communication channel remains open. Future dialogue welcomed. The ripples of the encounter spread through galactic communication networks faster than light itself. What began as a simple exploratory mission became a profound turning point in interstellar understanding. Research archives across multiple star systems began to compile and analyze the luminary transmission. Each detail was scrutinized, each moment of the encounter dissected with scientific precision. But something profound emerged that transcended mere technical analysis. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, drawing representatives from over 200 established spacefaring civilizations. The transmission from the human vessel was played repeatedly, each replay revealing new layers of complexity. Ambassador Krellman Vox of the Luminary delegation stood before the assembled representatives, his multiple sensory tendrils trembling with the weight of their discovery. This was not simply an encounter, he explained. This was a comprehensive redefinition of interstellar interaction. Star charts began to change. Invasion plans that had been generations in the making were quietly shelved. The human encounter demonstrated something fundamental that challenged every existing paradigm of galactic exploration and conflict. The humans had not conquered. They had not destroyed. They had presented a method of interaction that was simultaneously a warning and an invitation. Research teams discovered something even more remarkable. The humans had not just encountered the luminary. They had been carefully studying multiple potential interaction scenarios for what appeared to be decades. Each potential first contact was a meticulously planned exercise in communication, technological demonstration, and mutual understanding. Communication protocols were rewritten. Technological exchange programs were established. The humans had demonstrated an approach to universal interaction that was so fundamentally different that it required a complete reimagining of established diplomatic frameworks. They view conflict as a problem to be solved. One sociological report noted, not a state to be maintained. The most profound impact was psychological. The humans had not presented themselves as conquerors or as victims. They were problem solvers, intellectual explorers who viewed every interaction as an opportunity for mutual understanding. Diplomatic archives began to fill with accounts of human interactions. Each encounter told a similar story. Precise technological capability balanced with a remarkable capacity for collaborative problem-solving. They did not seek to dominate. They sought to understand. Scientific research took on new dimensions, where previous spacefaring civilizations viewed technological advancement as a competitive process. The human approach suggested a collaborative model. Technologies were shared. Challenges were approached as collective problems to be solved.